What's up, Broncos country? Welcome into the Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. My name is Moose. We've got some interesting information to break down here on this little at-home edition of the Broncos Breakdown. It's my off day today because obviously we're going to be live tomorrow for Broncos versus Raiders, Thursday night football on Amazon Prime, so be there or be square. It is another AFC West matchup. I am so excited and ready. So make sure you hit subscribe, click that little bell notification. Never, ever miss a time that we go live. So I want to break down in this episode a little bit about what we've heard over the last 24 hours about the Broncos trade deadline phone calls. Their plan was kind of revealed to us now, the public. And then the back half of this, I kind of want to address some of the comments that we've gotten on the last couple of videos, kind of breaking down where the Broncos are at this point in the middle of the season, kind of like a little report card situation here, but I'm probably not going to give out any grades. We're just going to talk about what to expect for the remainder of the 2025 season based off of what we've seen so far. So we did find out from multiple ESPN reporters, including Jordan Schultz and other Broncos media outlets, the Denver Broncos did make a phone call on Jaylen Waddle. They did. They called up. It would have been Chris Greer, but he got let go. So whoever the acting GM is right now in Miami, I'm not entirely sure. And there was a first-round pick plus extra picks attached to the asking price. Well, I'm going to be completely honest with you. Jaylen Waddle is not worth that much. Could I have given up a first-round pick for Jaylen Waddle? You could have convinced me, but that's all I would have given him. I wouldn't have given him a first and a seventh even. Like one pick if you're going with the first, and that's it. That is all I would have given you. But I also look at this and I say, did the Broncos have an opportunity to get better? Yes, they did. Did the Broncos have an opportunity to really pull themselves apart and separate themselves from the rest of the AFC West and the rest of the AFC in general? Maybe. Maybe they did. But now I have to look at what has happened rather than what we, thought could have happened. And the reality of the situation is, for everybody that wanted Jaylen Waddle, for everybody that sat back and was like, we need another weapon, I hear you. I am on your side. I wanted the Broncos to go out and make another move because getting an elite core receiving unit with the addition of Jaylen Waddle would have been just what this team needed. Does that mean the Broncos are deficient at wide receiver? Of course not. Of course not. Are there a couple of drop problems? Yes. We need to stop the drops. Troy Franklin's had a few drops this season. Courtland Sutton recently has been dropping the ball. So every single move or lack of move that the Broncos did or did not make, they clearly believe one centralized idea, and that is they believe this team is good enough as is to win a Super Bowl. That would be the only reason you don't go out and make a move. The Colts didn't think they were good enough to win a Super Bowl. That's why they went out and spent picks on Sauce Gardner. Now, granted, I'll say this. No cornerback, even Pat Surtain, in my opinion, is not worth 2 first-round picks. That is an egregious amount of picks. And now completely setting back the rest of the NFL in the cornerback market because Sauce, who's not even close to the same type of corner that Pat Surtain is, gets 2 first-round picks. Well, what will Pat Surtain garner? You know what I mean? The Broncos aren't going to trade Pat Surtain. I have no belief whatsoever that they think they're going to go out and trade Pat Surtain at any time in the near future or, frankly, for the rest of his career. So that's just a little sidebar. But the thing that we need to be looking at this as is why did Sean Payton and George Paton sit on their hands for the remainder of the trade deadline? After you get a call or after you make the call for Jaylen Waddle and they say it's going to take a first and blah, 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 and then you hang up the phone. Did you sit back and think that was the only piece that needed to be added to this team? Because I would have argued that you could have gone out and made calls about tight ends. You could have gone out and made calls about potentially, another inside linebacker, maybe some depth. I'm not entirely sure. You went out and signed Mercedes Lewis, and that's great, but he's not exactly the game-breaking tight end that everybody is expecting. He's 41 years old. He's a great veteran, great locker room presence, and a leader. That's why you signed him. So to me, I'm in a bit of a state of confusion right now because on the one hand, I do believe very strongly in this Denver Broncos roster. And here's what I think the entire episode needs to kind of be about. The Broncos are not deficient in any area of football in 2025. Are they elite in every single unit? No, of course not. They could have gotten better in wide receiver. They could have gotten better at tight end. They could have gotten better at inside linebacker. But let's just go through the unit by unit. I mean, the corners, even with Pat Surtain out, clearly still really good and deep. This defensive line, this pass rush, is the best in the NFL, maybe one of the best we've ever seen. The offensive line seems to be holding up on its own, even without Ben Powers. So the running game is completely evolved and changed. Bo Nix is the most clutch quarterback in the NFL. Every single unit is doing their job effectively. Granted, it doesn't look pretty every single time, but they are not deficient in any specific area. They're just not elite in every area. They've got an elite pass rush. That's their elite unit. We get to your quarterback. Everything else can get better, but it's not bad. And I think that's what the kind of underlying message between Sean and George was, is that we don't need to go out and make a big time splash. It would be great if we could get the right price for it. But we know all about the team-friendly deals that George Paton likes. He doesn't like to overpay. Look at Nick Bonito's contract. Look at Zach Allen's contract. Look at Cortland Sutton's contract. So it's clear that George is a master of paying the players that he needs to pay and maximizing their value based off of their current contracts. And Jaylen Waddle was just one of those players that I'm sure he didn't want to give up a first and more. So that's exactly how I want to start off today's episode. I kind of want to wrap it up by, like I said, talking about the second half of the season, because now you've got 2 games against the Colts, 2 games against the Chiefs, 2 games against the Raiders, and another against the Chargers. This second half of the season is the true test. That's not to diminish anything they did in the first half of the season, but you played teams like the Titans. You played teams like the Bengals without Joe Burrow. All of those games you should have won. You played the Jets. Now you really have to go look at the second half of the season and say, okay, we played Green Bay, good team. We played the Chiefs twice, good team. You play the Chargers again, good team. You play the Jaguars, feisty team. I don't know if I would call them good at this point, but now they have Jacoby Myers. So you got 5 games in the next 9, 8, 7-2. Okay, so 8 games. It's 5 out of the next 8 games. Those are not easy games. And we also know that the other 2 games out of those 8, there's 3, but you got 2 games against the Raiders, and the Raiders stink, but divisional games, everything's wonky. Everything gets wonky in divisional games. So now we have to look at the second half of the season as, okay, now that we've not made any moves at the trade deadline, now you really got to tighten it up. Now everything has to come together. Everything has to be at the top of its game, because I can guarantee you, if you play like you did against the Jets or the Giants, right, against the Chiefs or the Chargers, you're not going to win that football game. Those coaches are too good. Andy Reid and John Harbaugh are too good of coaches. Sean Payton's a great coach, but those 2 guys are no slouches. They're at the top of the NFL for a reason. Now, the Chargers are without, an offensive line now, basically. So there is a slight opening to say that the Chargers are maybe not as good anymore as they once were when they started the season. But at the same time, I think it's important to note that your most buttoned-up football has to come right now. And I know that George Paton also knows this. If you continue to have the slow start to football games, if you continue to have the 2-3 quarters of just not moving the football, fans are going to react, saying, why didn't we go do X? And I can't blame them. I'm a fan myself. So it's important now to say that, okay, hey, report card time. The Broncos have been great in these areas. deficient in these areas. Now you got to clean it up. Now it's time to sit down, have everybody in the locker room understand that if this team is serious about making a deep playoff push, you can't have room for any of these slow starts offensively. And the defense has to continue to do what they do. It's just a quick little episode, a little at-home episode. I thought I would share some intel with you that I've been hearing from around Broncos media sources as well as the ESPN world itself. Remember, we are going to be live tomorrow, so make sure that you stop by, hang out with us for a little bit. We'll be giving away some really cool stuff. I would have loved to have given away the very first Jaylen Waddle Broncos jersey, but it's not going to happen. Reminder to hit that subscribe button, like today's video, and as always, Broncos country, mile high salute to you. Be cool.